Hello, and welcome back to All Watch What They're Watching, where we're curious and adamant about cinema. As always, I am one of your hosts. I'm Kiri.
And I'm Adam.
And today we are talking a little bit about Spike Lee's new film, Highest to Lowest, and how it holds up against the movie that it is inspired by, High and Low, directed by Akira Kurosawa. And then in paying homage to that, we're going to talk about our top 5 remakes. Good stuff.
Yes, the High remake episode. This will be a fun conversation. I think when you talk about the state of movies, the movie industry, it's often a conversation that comes up a lot about the way that original movies are kind of sidelined for remakes and lots of sequels. And so I think we'll dive a lot into that. We'll give some thoughts and feelings about whether things should be remade and kind of that process and how to go about it. So it'll be interesting. I'll have some takes. I'll contradict myself as soon as we do some rankings, but it'll be a good time.
Right. Yeah, I think that's an interesting point because I feel like I'm a big poster child for being like, yes, I want new content, absolutely. But then, something like Furiosa comes out and I'm like, yes, I will support this franchise until the day I die.
Right.
So, and again, like we both, I did it for the podcast, but we both saw Highest to Lowest, which, and looking at Spike Lee's filmography, this is at least his second remake. He also did Old Boy.
Which I have not seen,
but I heard was very bad.
Heard the same, and the original is another beloved movie, and so people did not take kindly to him perhaps not doing the interpretation justice.
Well, because man, Korean revenge films go hard. They don't give a crap. They go hard.
I think at some point I read the Wikipedia plot summary to Old Boy, and it is a wild one. It's
wild.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it because of that. I've done enough research and know enough about it that I'm like, I don't think I want that. I've seen like the very famous, the famous hallway fight scene, and I've seen some various famous scenes, but just in general, I'm like, I don't think I want to do this.
Sure.
Maybe I'll change my mind, but that ending especially, I'm just like, good night.
Yeah,
no, thank you.
Quite the twist that,
yeah.
Quite shocking, I would say. Well, anyways, High and Low with Kurosawa. As we were talking about doing this episode, you were really excited, especially about Kurosawa. You hadn't seen High and Low yet. Do you want to talk a little bit about your experience with his movies and kind of what that started out with and why you like him?
Sure, yeah. I've been wanting to watch a lot more of his filmography just of late. The first one I ever saw was Rashomon, which I liked. I think it's great. And that one, I ended up picking it for like our family's movie club. We rotate picking movies every month, and I wanted to watch a Kurosawa, and that was the shortest one, and I figured that was the one I could probably get my family on board with, even though I wanted to watch Seven Samurai, which is 3.5 hours long. And then shortly after that, I had watched Ikiru with some friends of mine, and that one's very kind of somber, definitely making a statement kind of about bureaucracy, about how do humans react when faced with their own, mortality. Ikiru is a very cerebral film. And then I bought Seven Samurai, the most recent Criterion sale. I haven't seen it yet. And then Ran is another one, very famous. So he has a whole ton of ones I've been wanting to watch. And High and Low was one that caught my eye. So yeah, when we talked about Highest to Lowest, and when you had mentioned, oh hey, it's a remake of Kurosawa's High and Low, I was like, well, 10 out of 10, let's do it. And we'll kind of get into this more. I think I don't know which one we want to talk about more, but I loved High and Low. I think it's a masterpiece, and we can kind of go into why. But you hadn't seen a Kurosawa film up till this point, right?
Right, and you encouraged me to watch.
I recommended you see Rashomon.
Rashomon is I'd say an acquired taste. There's a lot of, the only thing I'll say about that before we move on is a lot of very just loud, bombastic laughing from many of the characters that you just kind of caught off guard by a little bit. I was curious if High and Low was going to take that same approach, and they did not. But some of the camera work in that movie is just some of the best you'll ever see. So I was extremely impressed with that. But that's I wouldn't necessarily recommend that my family watch that one.
Yeah, no, and like I said, I hadn't seen it, so I was basically just like, I wanted to either watch Rashomon, Throne of Blood, or Seven Samurai, and I went, which one's the shortest? Rashomon. That's the one I'm picking. That way they only have to deal with this for an hour and a half if they hate it.
There you go.
I wouldn't say they hated it. They found it, you and I talked about this a little bit, it is a little dry, and that might just be, dumb, modern ADHD American brains, or it might be a little dry. But also, I mean, it was pretty early on in Japanese cinema too, so they were still getting used to kind of like what you could do with camera work. There was lots that, so yeah, the large bombastic laughter is because like they were still kind of getting used to how to adapt stage to film.
Right.
So a lot of it is very over the top. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I really dug Rashomon. I like it a lot, but I'm kind of in the same boat. High and Low, I immediately texted my family and I was like, I wish I would have picked this one as the Kurosawa film because I genuinely think you guys will like this. Rashomon, I don't want to say like, yeah, I get it, but I understand why. Had I seen it first, I wouldn't think that they would like it.
Right. Let's get into High and Low. I did say I'm going to watch Highest to Lowest first because High and Low is likely going to be a masterpiece. So let's get the remake first and then we'll go back and see that. I actually wish I'd done it opposite, but that's okay.
I kind of do too, because I feel, yeah, let's talk about Highest to Lowest first. But the reason I would say I agree is because I felt like I didn't have context for things with Highest to Lowest. So when it finished, I was like, I don't feel like I can really give this a star rating until I see High and Low first. So I don't know. I feel like I didn't quite have a good like starting point, like a good pulse check for it until after I had seen High and Low. What about you?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's times in Highest to Lowest when it's winking at you, someone expecting you to have seen High and Low to kind of catch a reference or to
Right.
see something that it's doing. I think that because there are similarities, at least in the first hour or so of both of these movies, basically Highest to Lowest does a pretty faithful, not shot for shot, but basically plot wise, the first hour is essentially the same. And so watching High and Low, which is this older movie that's a little bit more deliberate and slow at times, having the exact same plot that I watched the night before did feel a little bit slower than maybe it would have if I came at it from fresh perspective. So that first part where it's just the kidnapping that is doing exactly what Highest to Lowest does, that part I did feel a little bit, there were things I was engaged with, but plot wise, I was like, oh, so this is just Highest to Lowest was just a beat for beat remake of this. I know what's going to happen next.
And maybe it's because I watched them like a week apart, I actually felt a little differently. During Highest to Lowest, and I tend to have a problem with this with movies in general that come out nowadays, I was like, how much damn exposition do we need? So like, I was like, we are 30 minutes in and nothing has happened. I felt like High and Low has some of the best pacing in a movie, period. And I'm like, this thing is 2.5 hours long. It doesn't feel that way. I feel like it moves at a breakneck pace. Even like that first section, I was like, oh my gosh, we're going through this so much faster than Highest to Lowest did. Whereas like Highest to Lowest, I was like, my gosh, is anything gonna happen? Because we've been wandering around for 25 minutes and not a single thing has occurred. Whereas like High and Low, the kidnapping happens like 10 minutes in.
You know what? Now that I'm thinking about this, I watched them back to back. I watched Highest to Lowest and immediately turned on High and Low. And so maybe that's where I didn't have a second to sit on it. Sometimes you can't judge your initial thoughts on a movie by your first watch because sometimes you're just not in the right state of mind. You're not refreshed. You're not that type of thing. So, and this isn't me. I love High and Low. I'm not saying that by any means. But let's go back to Highest to Lowest, a little bit about some of the details of the plot. I'll turn that over to you. That's your specialty. You're great at that part. So
I don't know about that, but I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, Highest to Lowest, directed by Spike Lee, starring Denzel Washington. Denzel is this music mogul executive guy about to make a deal because he doesn't want to sell his big music company to, even bigger executives, basically. His son gets kidnapped, held for ransom. They find out the kidnapper made a mistake. It's not his son. It's his, chauffeur's son that was kidnapped. But the kidnapper is basically like, doesn't matter. I am still holding this kid for ransom. Either pay the ransom or don't. So the first hour is kind of this moral battle where he's deciding, do I want to pay this? And kind of what's interesting contrast, he seems to almost have like this brotherhood with his chauffeur that is not there in High and Low.
Right.
And then, there will be spoilers. So spoiler alert, he decides to pay the ransom. It's very intricate and involved. They do get the son back. All is well as far as people are safe, but he's still out basically his entire fortune. Yeah. So the second half of the movie is kind of the detectives are doing their thing. Denzel can kind of see everything he's built. What would it look like if this all comes crumbling down, which is kind of what he's on the brink of. He ends up figuring out, which this is such a stupid plot point, but he ends up figuring out who the kidnapper is. And he and his chauffeur kind of go hunt him down, confront him. They get the money back. The kidnapper guy does end up going to prison, and Denzel's character does decide to kind of downsize. I don't know if he sells the company or what, but he basically starts up a new music company specifically to highlight like voices of people of color. And we can talk about this, but there's some class commentary, there's some racial commentary, but that's the short and long of it.
Great.
That's the high and low of it.
There's some things that work in this movie, and there's a lot of things that don't. As you were given that plot summary, it kind of, I feel like there's two things going on in this movie, and I don't know if they necessarily clash per se, but they just don't fit really nicely together. And it's sort of your first half, second half. Your first half is very much the high and low plot line, which we'll obviously get into, where it's this moral quandary and, this guy, does he pay the ransom even though he doesn't have to because it's not his son? And what does that mean? And it never feels earned, him making that decision. It never feels like a real moral quandary. Also, it's not like a real position either. I know that people exist that are music moguls and stuff, but it's like it doesn't make any sense, right? So, like in 2025, we don't really have record labels dominating any sort of pop culture conversations. And I feel like I'm pretty plugged into pop culture in general. So already you have this wait, what does he do? Why is he doing this? And you have to have it because that's the second part of the movie. The second part of the movie is about reconnecting to the music and art and this sort of pro art, pro creative message versus there's some themes in there sprinkled in about AI and kind of getting to this corporate sort of commercial side of music. And so I'm like, yeah, you can tell that Spike Lee was really trying to hit that message and get that come across really well. And I love that. I really like the second half of this movie, and I think it's a really good message. I think the end was powerful, but to fit it into high and low, I don't know if it works.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. I mean, I wrote down, wish it would have been its own thing. I don't think that we need the ransom plot, especially it being his chauffeur's son instead, because I still feel like the second half is kind of cheesy, but there's some stylistic things that are really cool. I think that's where the class commentary really clicks in, because the kidnapper kind of says some of that. He talks about how oh, look, you're so big, you're so powerful up in your fancy penthouse and stuff. What about all of us what about your brothers down here who are trying to make music and you're just concerned about the money now? We're down here making art, but you're up in your ivory tower and we're down here in the slums. I just don't feel like the first half is necessary. Like you said, it doesn't feel earned. I think it's boring as hell. I don't find it boring in high and low. Highest to lowest, I find the first hour mind-numbingly dull. I don't care. I don't care. Make your decision and then let's go for it. I just don't care. I am so sorry, whoever plays his wife. I don't have her name written down. Her acting is bad.
Yeah,
it's pretty abysmal.
I hate to call people out, but it is not good. And and Jeffrey Wright, I really like him as an actor too. He plays the chauffeur, and I feel like his script just wasn't doing him a lot of favors. It almost just doesn't make sense as a 2025 problem that you would think this person would actually have, where it works really well at high and low. And Here it just doesn't. There's also just a confounding, confusing decision. The music is weird. Like
What
the
in the
score
world?
is really odd. It's a really odd choice. The best way I can describe it is it feels like a Hallmark movie at times. And the way they're trying to have these serious conversations, but the score, you're like, where am I right now? This is really weird.
It's got this really weird like piano thing kind of going on in the background. And the songs that are weaved into, it starts with this not terribly good cover of Oh What a Beautiful Morning from Oklahoma.
Oh yeah.
Why? Why is that there? I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you know? It's
I
like it's a
don't.
baffling choice. It's so weird.
It's really strange. It really takes you out of it. I will say though, the turn when it gets to the correct me if I'm wrong, the Puerto Rican cultural celebration.
Yeah.
So that's the handoff where he's delivering the ransom on the subway to the kidnapper. And it's
Yes.
intermixed with this really great Puerto Rican street festival type thing. And it's intermixed with the police detectives trying to get through, and the ransomers have all these motorcycles planned out. And the music's great, and it's shot well, and it's engaging, it's fun. So I think that's the part I was like, okay, I can get behind this. But to get there just didn't make a lot of sense from a plot perspective. And I'm not one to,
Yeah.
I'm willing to suspend my disbelief for many plots, for many things, but this one just felt off.
Well, and I remember, because again, I didn't know the story of High and Low. So when he decides he's going to pay it, and then he goes to the handoff, I'm sitting here being like, do we have any, like, does this moral quandary go farther? Like, yes, he's made this decision, but now is he going to regret it? Is he going to do this, that? And like, kind of what you said, it doesn't feel earned because he doesn't do any of that. He decides to pay it and he's all in, and that's it. We don't really see him like come to that decision. And then there doesn't, like, even the end, and we'll talk a little bit about High and Low in a minute, but with High and Low, we see the repercussions.
Right.
This executive does not come back from it.
No, it ends on quite a somber note even.
And like this one doesn't. This is very almost like triumphant, like, yeah, he's going to connect back to the music. It really takes like a very positive, like happy ending spin on it. Whereas High and Low, you can see that he's picking himself back up. They're not destitute. He did get his money back, and he's starting with another company. He's no longer this bigwig executive. The way I see it is like, it shows real life. It's not this squeaky clean, like, if you do the right thing, like, everything's going to work out okay. No, it's not. He gives up the money, and the police do get the money back, but by the time they come back and they're like, hey, we recovered the rest of it, they look around, they're like, oh, we're too late. And Mr. Gondo is pretty much like, yeah, like my stuff's getting seized.
Yeah.
That's life.
Great points. Back to highest to lowest. Was I just picking up on this and shouldn't have, but did it seem like Jeffrey Wright's character was like involved in the kidnapping?
Because I had not seen High and Low, I was wondering if that was the case, especially because they kind of make a point to be like, he's an ex-con, he's done this shady stuff before.
It's really weird decisions.
Yeah, because I thought that too. I was like, oh, was he involved? No, he wasn't. And I think they make that clear by the time that they're, he's out for blood, basically.
Right.
But yeah, I'm just going to come out and say it. I think the idea of making the show for like an ex-con and all these things was so dumb. I thought it was so dumb.
What's the point? Is my question. And again, if he wasn't involved with the kidnapping, why did you kind of hint that maybe he was? That's just such a weird thing to do.
Yeah, I don't know. I think making him an ex-con made no sense other than maybe to add some depth to that character. Yeah, we'll move on. I wish it wouldn't have tried to be a High and Low ripoff, and a bad ripoff at that. I wish it would have kind of been its own, almost like crime thriller. I wish it had been more of a crime thriller and we didn't have to deal with the moral quandary aspect of it. And I think it could have been better because you wouldn't be wasting a friggin' hour on a plot point that doesn't matter.
I have a take that will maybe surprise you. everything I've just said about this movie that I'm going to hold off until we talk about high and low.
All right, well, fair enough. And what is your star rating?
3.
I was hovering around 3, and then I watched high and low, and I'm sitting at 2.5 for highest to lowest, and I even might be a little bit gracious with that.
I get it. Yeah, there's some issues.
But high and low, loved it.
Yes, and so you gave an excellent plot recap of highest to lowest. High and low is similar. Instead of Denzel Washington, who's a music mogul, you're following this character who's kind of a executive at National Shoes. And so it starts off with this meeting between a couple guys that also work there that are like, hey, we've got the votes to oust the president, make a new person president. And he's like, no, I've got my own plans. I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to buy these other shares. I'm going to become in control. So you can have this sort of businessman that's very calculated and very smart and very engaged in what he's trying to do. And then, of course, the same plot happens with his son is kidnapped, but it's actually a chauffeur. The main difference here being that the chauffeur then is this very, very meek, shy, very submissive type individual compared to Mr. Gondo. And so you can see the real moral quandary of, does he pay this ransom? And I think you actually feel like maybe he won't at various times, when in highest to lowest, you're like, he's going to pay it. We all know that, but.
Right. Well, because in high and low, first of all, there's no real connection beyond, like, their sons play together, and, like, no offense, but, like, kids will play with anyone. But yeah, there doesn't seem to be, like, this brotherhood, this familiar bond the way there does in highest to lowest. And I also feel like, I kind of feel like the stakes are higher in high and low.
It definitely feels that way.
Because it's kind of a different setup. It's this idea of he's taking, similar in that he's liquidating all of his assets, and he's going to buy out basically majority shares of the company. So there's more of a time pressure on it. You know, he's got to have the money basically that night, the night the kidnapper calls. Like, his assistant is ready to walk out the door and get on the plane when he stops him. And it is more of this thing, like with Denzel, it's more of like I think he's gonna be okay. It's just, it's his dream. He's gonna be losing some things that he would have loved. Whereas this, it's like, if he pays this ransom, he's screwed.
Right.
Financially, career-wise, like, this guy's screwed.
Yeah.
So those stakes are higher.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And you can really feel that. And it's also juxtaposed with this just incredible, like, blocking and framing. Every shot has like 45 people in it.
Gosh.
In the way that they're all kind of connected and put into different places of power, and the way that you just read all these different emotions based on things that are happening is absolute cinema, right? It's one of those things where you're watching, in most movies you don't necessarily notice those things, but me, who's more of a casual movie watcher, I'm watching this and I'm like, wow, look at how they're all staged. This is really remarkable. I can't think of a movie I've seen recently that does it like this. Like, this is really cool. And I know that people do. I'm just not looking for it. It just feels like, even if you're not looking for it, you see it and recognize it. And it's just incredible.
Like, there are shots kind of near the beginning with 7 people in the shot. It doesn't look crowded. It doesn't look claustrophobic. Like, the composition, the camera work that they're doing, the staging, the blocking is all just, like I said, masterclass in composition. Just holy crap. It's so good.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I would love to have been a fly in the room watching him stage everybody, and like, I'm sure it took a long time to really get everyone perfectly, but you can just see there's so much intention in that. So anyways, plot wise, he also ends up paying the ransom, get the kid back, and so then the second act of the movie is really just an investigation. You see a little bit of Mr. Gondo, but really he's not so much in the second act, except for a couple interview type scenes. But it's just them going through the investigation and going like piece by piece. It feels very similar to like Zodiac or Memories of Murder, or just your typical kind of whodunit, analyzing police doing good police work. It's really, like you said, it's really engaging. It's really well paced. again, there's like 75 people and they're all staged in a way in this room that's engaging and they're sharing information. So then they get the leads and they know who it is. So then it's about catching him and getting him because they want to,
Right.
they have to catch him in a certain way so that they can get a longer charge where the kidnapping wouldn't be as long. And so then you follow the kidnapper for the third act and kind of watch him living in more destitute, poor circumstances. And he kind of goes through the drug row and kind of all that's involved in there. And so then you eventually catch him and have some similar parallels to Highest to Lowest, but really engaging, really, really great movie. It's a good time.
Yeah, I think you covered it really well. I mean, like I said, everything, it was superior in pretty much every single aspect. Like, the acting was fantastic, whereas the acting in Highest to Lowest, again, Wright and Washington were good, but they had a poor script to deal with. This was a great script, and the acting was top-notch. Really loved everything his wife did.
Yeah.
Writing solid, the composition is great, the pacing is... I could talk all day about the pacing, and I've already talked about it a little bit, but, like, they're both 2.5 hours long, and Highest to Lowest, I was just like... I felt like I felt the 2.5 hours, and I was like, this could be shorter, which is, you'll find that both you and the viewers, any movie that's longer than 2 hours, I usually am like, you know what? This could have been shorter. This could have been 2 hours. You could have cut 20 minutes out of there. Highest to Lowest, I felt that. I was like, you could have cut a good chunk of this out. Whereas High and Low, I was like, I feel like every single piece worked. I felt like it moved at a pace that I was on board with. There was no time where I was just like, oh, this is such a slog. I was in it. I was excited. I feel like the moral quandary is more of a moral quandary because there isn't this sense, like you said, with Highest to Lowest, there's this idea where you're like, Denzel's going to pay it.
Right.
Especially because you're like, he's got this brotherhood with his chauffeur and his wife and his kid are pressuring him to pay it because he also has a connection to, the chauffeur's son. Whereas High and Low, it was like, even watching Highest to Lowest, I was like, do they diverge at this point? Because I don't think this guy's going to pay.
Yeah, no, I had the same thought. It really feels that way. It does a really good job.
So I think it is more of a moral quandary. And like you said, this one feels earned. Like, you feel like you see him going back and forth. You see him kind of being like, okay, well, don't leave with the money yet. And then he's like, okay, I'll just tell the kidnapper I'm going to pay it, but I haven't decided if I am or not. And then you finally see him be like, okay, let's go get the money. I liked the class commentary better in this one too, I think.
Yeah.
I like that throughout the film, you see the kidnapper like living in destitution. You see him being able to see Mr. Gondo's house. And he says that at that confrontation in the prison at the end. Also, that acting at the end there from that kid, so where he starts shaking, I was like, oh, it is good stuff.
Yeah.
This is good stuff. And same thing, that scene in Highest to Lowest, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
In this, it's different because in Highest to Lowest as well, like, he's only getting a handful of years or something. And High and Low, like, this kid is on death row. And you see almost that, like, you see his body and his mind kind of register that that's going to happen to him. And you see him being like, there were nights I couldn't sleep because I was too hot. There were nights I couldn't sleep because I was too cold. And for him to be like, yeah, and I would look out my window and see your house every night. And it just looked like a palace. Like, that just hit. And maybe it's just me, but that hit more as far as the class discrepancy, more than Highest to Lowest did. Highest to Lowest, I was like, yeah, I can see that, especially when you see Denzel kind of in the lower income parts of town. But it hit me more powerfully in High and Low.
Yeah, I saw someone on Letterboxd that said Mr. Gondo's net worth is equivalent to about $3 million today. So when you,
okay,
I think we've just been conditioned so much. Just the current wealth disparities in our culture are so conditioned and propagandaed out of us that I think it's sometimes harder for us to recognize and understand that. And you just feel it. You really see it really well in High and Low. Even if by today's standards, it's not it's still a dramatic, obviously, change in wealth. And I'm not a millionaire by any means. So I would certainly envy or covet someone that is a millionaire and can afford a house, right? I'm not going to be able to afford a house anytime soon. And so I just feel like the emotions of it you can feel versus I don't know what, like I said earlier, I think Highest to Lowest has two things going on, and one of them works and one of them isn't working, and it's not working together.
Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, we talked about our star ratings, but to recap, I mean, high and low, 5-star for me. I'm like, it's a masterpiece, full stop.
4.5. I have to ask you, how did they do that pink smoke?
Oh, that is hand colored in.
No kidding.
Yeah. You'll see. Have you seen, it's called The Great Train Robbery? It's a silent film. But you see them like blow up you see like a small explosive device blow off because it's blowing up a lock. And same thing, that was hand colored in, just in post.
It's this fun surprise that we're in this black and white movie and there's pink smoke. Look at that.
It's actually pink.
Yeah, very cool.
So I think as far as recommendations, I would say High and Low is one that I think I could recommend to almost everyone. I would say give it a chance. It is a black and white film. It is a subtitled film. It's in Japanese. I would say it's a good time. I would say if you're even a little bit exposed to like old or international films, I would say give it a shot. Highest to Lowest, in my opinion, unless you're, diehard Spike Lee or diehard Denzel Washington fan, I think you could skip it. I don't think you're going to get much out of it, is my take. What would be your recommendations going forward?
I can agree with those takes, but I'll give you my other take now. Now, I said it isn't a perfect remake, and it maybe the remake part of it maybe isn't even good. But what I will say is I think it's a good thing. I think where this is a good thing is someone like me who never even heard of High and Low, knew nothing about it, maybe wouldn't have ever really been exposed to it. But people are like, hey, Highest to Lowest is a remake of this, guy named Kurosawa's High and Low. And I'm like, what's that? And I go and I look on Letterboxd and I see all of my mutuals who have seen this movie rated a 5 or a 4.5. And I'm like, what is this movie? What's going on here? And so I think that a remake like this, and I don't know if you saw, as you may have been distracted by What a Beautiful Morning, but during that opening credits, I noticed that one of the producers was a Kurosawa. So I don't know who that
I did
was.
notice that.
So I assume it's obviously someone related to him. But so I think that obviously, I think Spike Lee's at a place in his career too where he's going to be, where his goal is to bring awareness to a Kurosawa film. He's not making Highest to Lowest to make it better. He's making it because he loves it. So that's my take, where I think overall something like this is a good thing, where maybe sometimes remakes aren't.
Yeah, I get on board with that.
That's a good pivot to start talking a little bit about our top 5 remakes. And again, I think probably a common theme you'll see between us is when people do something either creative or doing it in a way that does kind of open up to a newer audience, I think is the right way to do a remake. And so that's a good introduction point as we talk about our top 5 favorite remakes.
Yeah, so we'll kind of go through these fairly quickly because we don't want this to be a 2-hour-long episode, as you and I know that we can do if we really let ourselves go. But yeah, we'll kind of go through. And I don't know if I'll completely stay true to this because I didn't do a ton of research, but I really tried to do things where I wanted it to really feel like a remake of a previous film. And we kind of talked about this. I was like, cause I could technically fit in Lord of the Rings, but it just felt like another adaptation of the books. And I wanted to pick something that really felt like a remake of another movie. That being said, my number 3, really, I'm cheating quite a bit with that. And then there's another 1 or 2 that I think might be based off of a book, but it still to me felt like a revamp of the film. And so, like I said, I didn't do a ton of research. I mostly went off vibes, but I did kind of want to do more of that, where it felt like they took an old film, decided to put their own spin on it, re-released it under, a new name or a new cast or whatever.
Yeah. we had some conversations. We talked through
Yes,
it.
we did.
I think our lists follow the spirit. Listeners, they convinced me one way, and then we went another way, and we're just
Right.
we're just working through it. Yeah, maybe there's some shade thrown at me that Kiri doesn't think some of mine are real adaptations, but I think it fits the spirit of it. Yeah, and I think that we don't have to get into it now, but I think that that's where a lot of things go wrong when you're trying to adapt something. So these are, and here's my other, I just had that big, deep take about highest to lowest and how it's a good thing for high and low because it gets people to open up. That's where I'm going to look like a hypocrite because I hate to admit it, but most of my selections, I have not seen the original. So my bad, but they're great movies. I like them. So they're on my list.
All right. Yeah. I've seen some of these, not all of the originals. Would you like to go first, or would you like me to go first?
I'll go first. I have some honorable mentions, and I'm not sure that you do.
I don't.
Yes, I'll jump in with some honorable mentions. I have last year's Nosferatu. I thought that was a good film, but I have not seen the others.
Have you seen the original of that one?
I haven't. Maybe if I had, unless you count the episode of SpongeBob where he shows up.
I will fight you right now.
But no, those are on my list to watch at some point. We almost watched it last Halloween, but didn't end up. So I'll watch that sometime. You gotta see the
original Nosferatu.
Yeah, I know there's like a funny scene of him running around with a coffin, so I'll check it out sometime. Yeah. My two other honorable mentions, I have 2022's All Quiet on the Western Front. I'm not generally one to love war movies, but I think the score of that movie and the dread that every second of that movie instills in you is really powerful. I really like that movie. And it's the third remake, if I remember right.
The original's better.
I'm sure, but the score in All Quiet on the Western Front is something else. And then my third one is that I didn't know was a remake until doing this list is Queen Latifah's Last Holiday. It's essentially a TV movie, Christmas movie with Queen Latifah and LL Cool J, and I love it. I love that movie. It's in the regular Christmas rotation.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's my honorable mentions. I can kick it back over to you for your number 5.
Yeah. So my number 5 is actually a remake of another Kurosawa film. So the Kurosawa film is Yojimbo, and the remake is Fistful of Dollars.
Oh, okay.
So Sergio Leone, it's part of the trilogy of The Man with No Name, so it starts Clint Eastwood. So it starts out Fistful of Dollars, and then a few dollars more, and then it wraps up with The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. A handful of people only know Good, and Bad, and the Ugly.
Like me.
Right. But, solid spaghetti western, came out in 1964. But, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say much about it. It's been a hot minute since I've seen it, but I've seen Good, the Bad, and the Ugly far more recently. But, I mean, Fistful of Dollars, solid western. I really enjoy it. Yeah. Kick it off to your number 5.
Great. My number 5 is 2007's Hairspray. I also have not seen any other adaptation of Hairspray.
You haven't seen John Waters' Hairspray?
I haven't, but I know that is kind of a episode when you were talking about a divine who is... Who do they play? Do they play the mother? I would assume so, since it's a drag role. Yeah. Anyways, that was that's one of those movies where we would just watch as a family and all have a great time. Yeah, it's a fun time. The acting is great. Obviously, Zac Efron, Amanda Bynes, John Travolta's great in there. Christopher Walken, he's great. The music's really great. I've always James Corden, right? He's the Corny Collins. Everything's about it's great.
That is not James Corden.
Sorry.
That is James Marsden.
Chris Pine. James Marsden. Chris Pine?
Goodness gracious.
James Marsden.
James Marsden.
Right. James Marsden. Cut all that out. James Marsden. James Marsden. Or is Corny Collins. That's who I thought it was originally. And, only person I said it was. I love him, by the way.
Oh yeah, he's great.
He's great. He's great.
Yeah, you also have Michelle Pfeiffer's the villain, which is just chef's
Yeah.
kiss.
It's
She's
a
so
great
good.
movie. I love Hairspray. What's your number 4?
So my number 4 is Ben-Hur, the 1950s one. Fun fact, it is tied with Titanic and Return of the King as a movie to win the most Oscars, so it also has 11 Oscars.
Awesome.
Yeah, this was kind of in my family, like kind of the long, like slow Sunday afternoon. It was like, yeah, let's put in Ben-Hur. It's 4 hours. You know, that chariot scene to this day is just some fantastic stunt work. The amount of extras that they had to fill that stadium, to get the sounds, they literally went to a Super Bowl and were just like, yell as loud as you can. And they recorded that. That's what was used for a lot of the chariot race. I quite enjoy Ben-Hur. 1959, directed by William Wyler, stars Charlton Heston, who was also in The Ten Commandments and a handful of other ones. It's not one that I'm like dying to go back to all the time, but I do think, again, I think that chariot race is just fantastic. And you actually were texting me before this episode earlier. You said you had some background on kind of some of the...
I wouldn't call it background. I'd call it some tea or some hot goss. And that is that, and it's a little bit disputed because there were a couple different writers for the movie, but one of the writers that there's some credibility to him having some credit on the screenplay. I'm not sure if he was given the most credit or whatever it is, but he basically came out and said that he wrote Ben-Hur and Masala's characters as having a homosexual relationship early on in their life, and that is where much of the tension goes for it. And he even goes to as far as saying that he told the actor Masala to play it that way, and that everybody knew except Charlton Heston. And so there's some public sort of back and forth between him and the screenwriter years and years later, kind of going back and forth, Charlton Heston denying it and disputing it and saying that's a load. The screenwriter being like, nah, man, I wrote it. I told him, yeah, man, you can play it however you want, but that's how it is.
See, it's funny because when you said that too, I was like, oh, I bet Charlton Heston did not like that.
Right.
If you haven't seen it and you don't want to invest 4 hours into the film, you can look up the chariot race scene on YouTube. Just go see that, because that is some movie making.
It's some good stuff.
Way.
This is also the second of 3 adaptations as well, right?
Yes, because then there was one that came out in 2011 that I would rather not talk about.
Did you see it?
I saw parts of it and that was all I needed to see.
Fair enough.
I saw a few clips and I was like, yeah, I'm good. But what's your number 4?
My number 4 is Peter Jackson's King Kong in 2005.
Interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. As you talk about long movies, right? This one is like 3.5 hours long as well. And there's an extended scene
Peter
of...
Jackson loves those long movies.
Yep, giant monkey ice skating. So what else could you ask for in a movie? Maybe some chariot racing. But this is one that seems... It's similar to another one further down my list where it seems like the director really caught on to something early on in their life and really, really wanted it. So when Peter Jackson was 9 years old, he first saw the 1933 film and was in tears in front of the television when Kong was shot and fell off the Empire State Building. At age 12, he attempted to recreate the film using his parents' 8mm film camera and a model of Kong made of wire and rubber with his mother's fur coat for the hair, but eventually gave up on the project. So it was his favorite film and was his primary inspiration for his decision to become a filmmaker as a teenager. So
not to, completely throw this off, but Guillermo del Toro is another one who has a lot of like things he saw and loved in his youth.
Yeah.
Which then inspired him to go. I mean, Shape of Water is his take on Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Right.
Pacific Rim is his take on Godzilla.
I love Pacific Rim. Pacific Rim. Good for him. So jumping
Yeah.
off that point, actually, because this conversations with Universal started right when Peter Jackson was getting popular as a filmmaker, and they actually offered him Creature of the Black Lagoon to remake, and he turned it down.
Dang.
Yeah, so this was in like the late 90s.
Have you seen the original?
King Kong?
No, Creature from the Black Lagoon.
I haven't. Yeah, maybe this Halloween I'll watch that.
I was about to say Halloween might be a good.
Yeah. So anyways, they had asked him, and he was hesitant to do King Kong, but then ultimately was like, well, actually, I don't want anyone else to mess it up. I got to do it. And he says that him and the writers, they based the screenplay off of the 1933 film rather than any of the later ones. So yeah, I think Peter Jackson is one of the great filmmakers and just knows scale and big monkeys and dinosaurs fighting. And I'm there for that. And climbing big
I can see
buildings.
that.
I'll admit it's been a while since I've seen it as well, but good time. What is your number 3?
So this is the one where I say I'm kind of cheating.
My number 3, I'm also cheating, so it's okay.
Okay. This remake has so little to do with the original, as far as I understand it. I haven't seen the full original. But mine is The Mummy. So, like, I've been making my way through the Universal monsters, Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, The Mummy, The Invisible Man, all those. And as far as I understand, there is very little to do with the Universal monsters black and white version of The Mummy and the one, with Brendan Fraser, and I think it's a great time. I can pretty much put on The Mummy whenever and have fun with it.
Sure.
I think it's a blast. I think it's, relatively family friendly. I think it's just, I think it's hilarious. I like, the lore, the mythology, as well as just kind of the action and where it goes. I think Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz's characters are just a good time. I like the brother Jonathan. Like, just find this movie to be a blast. It's not a 5-star movie. It's not a masterpiece. I don't care. I think it's so much freaking fun, and I feel like it is something that I can comfortably throw at anyone, and anyone will like it. I think it's it's like a good Friday night movie. You don't have to think too much about it, but it's fun. It's a good time. No notes. But yeah, I don't think it has it's a remake in that they both have a mummy in it, and that is the title. I think that's about all they've got going for them. So for me, I'm like, yeah, it's technically a remake, but I don't know if it's really a remake in the spirit of the way my others are remakes. But I think it's a blast. I love The Mummy. That's pretty much all I have to say about that.
Close enough.
You've seen it, right?
I have, and it's difficult to go wrong with Brandon Fraser. So glad to see his research. I'm excited.
Yeah, but let's take it away to your number 3.
All right, also my cheater pick. My number 3 is 2011, also a monkey pick. So there you go. But it's 2011, Rise of the Planet of the Apes. The reason why this is a little bit cheating, or a lot of it, depending on who you ask, is the real Planet of the Apes remake was 2001, Tim Burton's version. And I haven't seen that. I've seen the original.
Do you want to hear a fun fact about me?
Absolutely.
I have never seen a single Planet of the Apes movie.
You need more monkeys in your life. What are you doing? Like,
I haven't seen any of the old ones. I've been meaning to do a watch through. I haven't seen any of the old ones. I haven't seen the Tim Burton one. I haven't seen any of the new ones. I have not seen a single Planet of the Apes movie.
So this was the first one that I'd seen, Rise of the Planet of the Apes. And I would personally call it more of a prequel than anything else, but okay. I think it's enough of a reboot and remake that I'm counting it.
Okay.
I even pulled this quote. They said in an interview, this has been called a prequel. It's been called a reboot. What would you call it? And they say, well, it's funny. We were interviewed on the set last summer, and I said, it's a reinvention. And someone quickly said, that's exactly what Tim Burton told me in 2001. So it's really hard to say. I guess if I had to pick, I would say reboot. So Close enough, but yeah, I love these movies. This was my first introduction to them. I know a lot of people are low on this one, but then there's
Okay.
Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War of the Planet of the Apes, which are the
War.
direct
Yeah.
sequels to this trilogy, which are like phenomenal movies. And I rewatched them in preparation for last year's Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I love Planet of the Apes. If you haven't
Mm-hmm.
been able to tell that yet. Uh, that trilogy, I think, is just fantastic. I still really like Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Sweet.
It's just a good time. Also, Charlton Heston, a little bit later in his career,
Mm-hmm.
and that movie really holds up. Like, it's really good.
Okay.
So I would recommend it. It's a good one. And then I can't
We might have to do like
remember.
a top 5 Planet of the Apes or even just top 5 monkeys or something.
Oh, for sure. And I gotta go back and watch the rest of the ones. I know there's one, I can't remember which one it's called, but one where the apes come to Earth and they're like put on trial in a courtroom. So it's like a courtroom drama. And apparently it's very good.
Excellent.
It's very good and like really dives into like some really complex social issues about real life in that I got to get to at some point. But yeah, Planet of the Apes, keep remaking those. Give me more of them.
I've been, like I said, I've been meaning to watch them. That might be a fun episode topic.
Yeah, great. So what's your number 2?
So my number 2 is Ocean's 11. The original, I know, came out many years previous. Ocean's 11 is one of those movies that, like, I've talked with people about it, and it's like, it's just cool.
Sure.
Like, you want to be them. Like, you got George Clooney and Brad Pitt both kind of in their prime. Julia Roberts in her prime. Everyone is hot. Everyone is cool. Everyone is like, you know, doing this criminal heist thing. Like, this is a top tier heist movie. It's just because you said you haven't seen it, right?
I have not. I've seen Ocean's 8.
Baffling to me that you have seen Ocean's 8 and not Ocean's 11. Baffling. No, we might have to do an arts versus charts with this one because
Sure.
holy crap. Ocean's 11 it's a very, like, I don't want to say it's a guy movie because I know a lot of women who like it, but I would say it's very much like, it's just a top tier heist film. It's cool seeing like the plan laid out, seeing the plan go into action. It's the same. Have you seen Logan Lucky?
I have, yeah.
Same director.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. He also did Black Bag, which I know you and I have both seen recently and
Okay, yeah. No,
enjoyed
Black
it.
Bag's great.
Yeah,
That's one of the
so-
first movies me and you ever talked about.
Yeah. So Ocean's 11, Steven Soderbergh, 2001. I think it's a really good time. Like I said, it just kind of exudes cool. It's fun. You've got these stakes. It's money, and George Clooney's also trying to get the girl. It's kind of one of those like The Mummy where I'm like, I think it's just a blast. The Mummy kind of leads into a little bit of the camp and the cheese, and I'm
Sure.
kind of here for it. Ocean's 11, I don't think is. I think Ocean's 11 is just, I haven't seen it in years, but I have a hunch that if I were to watch it today, I would be like, oh yeah, it's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Because I remember really liking it. I think it's so intelligent. I mean, Steven Soderbergh just is good with movies like this. It's so intelligent. It's quippy. The way it's shot is really interesting. It's making me want to rewatch it, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, Ocean's 11, I think it's just fantastic.
Yeah, well, when you talk about Soderbergh and when Black Bag came out and just kind of, it was a quiet movie and probably didn't make as much as it should have.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he was saying as kind of the lead up of like, yeah, we just need more movies for adults. They're just, you know, smart adult movies that you don't have to hold anybody's hand. You can just be an adult about things and approach things in a creative and, you know, smart way. And I can really appreciate that.
And Black Bag is a crisp hour and a half. And whenever I see a movie that is an hour and a half, you'll just see my face just lights up. I get so happy when movies are 100 minutes or less. It just thrills me to my very core.
Good.
And it has Cate Blanchett, who is my queen.
Yes. And Michael Fassbender, who's my king.
Oh yeah, he's great. No, he's great. Let's take it away with your number 2.
All right. My number 2, again, we kind of get into this fuzzy is this really a remake of a movie or I don't care. My number 2 is The Muppet Christmas Carol. And now if you
Okay.
ask me, what movie is this remaking? There is literally a Wikipedia page devoted to the adaptations of A Christmas Carol. I tried
The
counting
one I
them.
grew up
Go ahead.
The one I grew up with was Mickey's Christmas Carol,
Oh,
which let
that's
me tell you,
another good one.
that packs a lot of story into like 25 minutes. That thing is absurd.
Right. I was counting them and gave up after 30 on this Wikipedia page. There are so many adaptations of A Christmas Carol. So I think it's impossible to say that A Muppet Christmas Carol did not pull from other movie adaptations. So it is absolutely a remake. I don't care. I think the best part about this movie is Michael Caine, obviously. And I think many people
Oh,
have
yeah.
heard this quote, but he said, I'm going to play this movie like I'm working with the Royal Shakespeare Company. I will never wink. I will never do anything Muppety. I am going to play Scrooge as if it is an utterly dramatic role and there are no puppets around me. And that is movie magic. It makes this
I've seen another quote where it's basically it talks about, because Tim Curry plays Long John Silver in A Muppet Treasure Island, which
Right.
that movie is like a fever dream. But it basically is like Tim Curry and Michael Caine are the two best people to ever be in a Muppet movie, because Tim Curry views himself as just another Muppet, and Michael Caine views all the Muppets as other real actors. And I'm like, I think that's kind of true. Like, Tim Curry really leans into like the ham of it, and he is just like cheesing it up and being this over the top fictional Muppety character, and Michael Caine, plays it straight.
So this movie is great. The music's great. Brings in some classic Christmas songs. We're always singing One More Sleep Until Christmas, or Allie and I'll joke and count however many days and sing it with however many days are left. You can skip the love song midway through. Most cuts just flat out skip it, acknowledge that it's bad. So you can still watch that scene in various cuts or versions of the movie. I can't remember if Disney
Is
Plus.
It problematic?
No, it's just bad.
Oh, it's just bad. Okay, all right, that's funny.
I think it's just bad. I don't think it's problematic, but and I can't remember Disney Plus either. There was either controversy because they had it in it or they didn't have it in it. I can't remember for sure, and I think Allie feels strongly one way or another, but I can't remember. But if something's bad, let's just cut it. Move on.
Cut it out. Yeah.
Yeah. So that brings us to your number 1, no?
Yes. My number 1 is 1982's The Thing. My best friend introduced this movie to me, and it is just very good.
Have you seen the original?
I have. Okay. 1951's A Thing from Another World. That was one I watched with my grandpa. It was either this or The Blob. I think it was The Thing from Another World, but it's also been decades since I've seen it. But no, 1982, again, my friend showed it to me a couple years ago, and I was just like, oh dang, this is good.
Yeah.
This is really good. Do you know the premise?
Oh, I've seen The Thing.
Well, okay, well, good.
We watched it last Halloween, actually.
You surprised me with your Ocean's 11 nonsense, so now I don't know anymore.
Hey, my letterbox is pretty up to date. You can do your research.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Yeah, no, I think it's great. I mean, I think it's a really good premise of like the Thing can turn into basically whatever form it wants, and you never know if other people are the Thing. At one point, I think one character is even concerned that they themselves are the Thing, and they somehow don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's a great, like, thriller. I think it's got some really awesome and gross VFX. You've got Kurt Russell, Keith David, like you've got some just fantastic casting. Yeah, I mean, I top notch. I think The Thing is I think it's a great remake. I think it's a thrilling film. I haven't seen the 2011 prequel, but
I don't think it's good.
I think the 1980. What was that?
I don't think it's good. I haven't seen it either, but I think
Yeah, I think
that's
I've
the
heard it's not very
general.
good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, 1982 is the thing. I think it's top notch.
And man, manly Kurt Russell with the beard and long hair.
Oh
Hot.
yeah. I honestly see a lot of parallels. I would be curious to watch these movies back to back. The Thing with Alien,
Oh, sure.
of that same kind of, this remote group of blue collar workers now have to face down this horrifying creature. How do they do that? Who takes control? Do the other people let them take control? I think it's an interesting study in leadership. And anyway, like I said, I think it would be interesting sometime to watch those movies back to back and to see the comparisons between Alien and The Thing. But anywho, let's kick it off. Every time we're like, hey, we're running over, let's move on. But yeah, could talk about The Thing for a while, but what is your number one?
All right, my number one was my number one originally. We talked about what a remake is. I said, okay,
Yes.
I won't do it. And I said, you know what? I don't care. I'm choosing Dune. Dune Part 1,
Nice.
2021. Dune Part 2,
Nice.
2024. There have been two and a half adaptations of Dune before this. The first was David Lynch, and that was one.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's not great, but and David Lynch would admit that himself if he were still with us
Oh yeah,
today,
he does
and
not like
has.
it. Just Villeneuve is his name.
Villeneuve. Denis
Villeneuve.
Villeneuve said
There you go.
he was very excited when he learned that the book would be brought to the screen. He said, I remember watching the movie and being very mesmerized and impressed by how David Lynch approached it. But he does say that he was a little bit put off by some of the choices that he made. And so when he wrote the script, he chose, again, this is me contradicting myself, he chose not to take inspiration from Lynch's Dune and focus primarily on the book, but he's seen the movie. He had to take some things from it. So it is a remake. I don't care.
Oh yeah.
But there was also a TV series that people regard as much better than Lynch's, but still some issues, but people like it. That came out, I think, in like the early 2000s. I can't remember who was behind that one. And then there was also this really ambitious idea from, I don't know how to say this, I've already butchered 500 people's names this evening, but someone, Jodorowsky, and he envisioned a 14-hour movie of Dune. And there's actually a more famous documentary of him trying to make this movie and failing. I think it's just called Jodorowsky's Dune. I haven't seen it, but I'll have to watch it sometime. Part 1 and Part 2 are just some of the best movies of the last 10 years, in my opinion. I think
I really dug Dune.
Yeah, just everything about it is very good, and I like it a lot, and that's why it's my number one. Yeah,
I've cooled on Dune a little bit. I would like to rewatch them, but yeah, I really dug both of the Dunes when they came out. But yeah, I mean, movies that deserve to be seen on a big screen. Yeah, no, I think good picks. I gotta tell you, picking remakes was hard. I feel like I had to hunt down because I was like, is this a remake? Is it not?
I felt the same way, but like I've said, I think there can be a lot of good that comes out of remakes. I think for, on my list, you had a Denis Villeneuve and Peter Jackson that were like, I love this thing so much, and I want to just keep showing that love of that thing. And then you have some, Hairspray is kind of this different interpretation based off of the musical that eventually, the Broadway musical that was different than the original. And obviously the Muppet Christmas Carol, it's obviously just doing this in a really fun way. And so I think, again, I think there is still a lot of creativity that can come out of doing a remake. And I think probably the key is really showing a lot of care and love for that original and some purpose for why you're doing something new, which is something that has been devoid. I'll just say that the animated to live action just feel hollow for that, those main reasons, because what what's the point? What are we doing here?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think I'd have to agree. I think the animation to live action always feels like a cash grab. Unfortunately, people keep giving it money. Snow White bombed, but Lilo and Stitch did not.
Yeah. Still go to the movies. It's still good to go to the movies, even if it's, something that maybe
So
us more pretentious people would prefer to see black bag, but that's fine.
Right. But Kenny, in regards to that, you and I have been talking about one battle after another
Yes.
that is just like making waves in the film communities. So you and I both have plans to watch that next weekend and record it. So hopefully we're going to try to get it up pretty much within a week of it being released in the US. And then we're also just kind of discussing it, giving our thoughts. But then we're also going to be doing another arts versus charts, or as we're calling it, arts versus charts. We're going to be comparing The Matrix because Adam wanted to do an arts v charts with The Matrix, and I saw the TV Glow, and I swooped in and said, no, this movie is based off of Ghost in the Shell. You haven't seen it. Let's do that. And then we pretty much decided that it's our podcast and we can do whatever we want and we can break rules or make rules as we please. So we're doing a very special arts versus charts where we will be comparing The Matrix with both I Saw the TV Glow, which I have never seen, and the original 1995 Ghost in the Shell, which Adam has never seen.
It'll be great. Can't wait.
I'm so excited.
Cannot wait. That's going to be a fun episode.
But yeah, so we got a kind of a jam-packed episode next week, and I am excited. So Cool. We'll catch you guys next time.
Great. Thanks.